Companies Act 2013. So I have told you, so they have to follow Companies Act 2013. So what is the performance of each and every branch? So here being an auditor, so once he is appointed as an auditor, so here an auditor of the company is appointed after the 30 days of registration. So qualify his report in the sense, so there are two types of report, that is clean report as well as unclean report. Hello everyone, I am Harshita, lecturer, Department of Commerce, Vidhyaashram First Grade College, the Temple of Excellence, Mysuru. Today we are in the 7th session of Unit 2, that is Audit, Planning and Control. So my dear students, in a previous session we have learnt about what is this audit planning and what is this audit control. Now let us quickly recall what we have discussed in a previous session. So in a previous session we have covered this topic. So we were discussing about company audit. So that is the auditing which is made in the company is called as company audit, and one who makes audit in a company is known as what? Company auditor. And here the company audit has to be done according to Companies Act 2013. So I have told you in the previous sessions, so for each and every accounting as well as audit process there is a particular law. In the same way for company audit also, they have to follow all rules, guidelines and regulations of Companies Act 2013, and the person who audits the company, who is known as what? Company auditor. So we have learned about company audit, appointment of an company auditor. So how an auditor has to be appointed, that is company auditor. So who will appoint an company auditor? So there are number of auditors to be appointed in a company. So who will appoint them? So that we have discussed in a previous session. Next, qualifications of a company auditor. Of course, for each and every auditor, he should be a qualified person. In the same way, what are the qualifications of a company auditor? So, as I've told you in a previous session, he should be a chartered accountant who is holding a certificate which is issued by Chartered Accountant of India Act 1949. So, he should be a chartered accountant. Then only he can do the auditing of a company. Next, what are the disqualifications of a company auditor? So, I have told you in the previous session, these two concepts will be asked in examination. That is, who is a company auditor? What are the qualifications as well as disqualifications of a company auditor? So, these are the certain topics which we have discussed in a previous session. Let us see what we are going to discuss today. So, we shall begin with the new topic. So that is rights and powers of a company auditor. So here we are mainly going to discuss about company auditor. So in a previous session we have learnt what is appointment or how an company auditor has to be appointed, what are the qualification as well as disqualifications of a company auditor. In today's session we shall see what are the rights and powers a company auditor has. So, as per the Companies Act 2013, so I have told you, so they have to follow Companies Act 2013. So, because an auditor is going for a company audit, so he has to follow rules and regulations of Companies Act 2013. An auditor of a company enjoys the following rights. Let us see what are the rights that has to be enjoyed by a company auditor, or that has to be followed by a company auditor. So the first one is right of access to books of account and vouchers. Of course, here he is going to examine the books of accounts of a company, and along with that he has to examine the vouchers of the company. So for each and every transaction there is a documentary evidence which is called as vouchers, right? So when an auditor goes for a company audit, so he has to verify the books of accounts of a company. At the same time he has to verify the vouchers. So for each and every transaction, whether there is a documentary evidence in relation to that or not. So that is known as what? Verification of vouchers. So under section 143(1) of the Companies Act of 2013, an auditor of a company has a right to access at all times to the books of accounts. So he has to examine the books of accounts of the company and vouchers of the company. It's nothing but the documentary evidence of the company whenever they are kept or wherever they are kept. So whenever An auditor wants these vouchers as well as books of accounts of a company. He has to verify it properly. So this is one of the right of a company auditor. That is verification or right to access. So he has a right to see the books of account as well as the documentary evidence in support of each and every transaction which is recorded in the books of account. It's nothing but vouchers. So it's a right to access the books of accounts of the company as well as vouchers of the company. And the next right is right to obtain information and explanation. Of course, here a company auditor is an external auditor, right? He is an external person who is not linked with the organization. So he will not have all the sufficient knowledge, right? So what he has to do? So he has to collect explanation as well as information from the company. So if he has any clarification, he has a right to take information as well as explanation from the client staff. That is the staff who are there in the company. So, under the Companies Act 2013, an auditor of a company has a right to obtain from the directors and officers of the company such information and explanation as he may think necessary for the performance of his duties. So, in order to conduct his duties, so if he need any clarification or explanation from the company staff, that is client staff, so he has a right to take that information as well as explanation. So, without any hesitation, so he can consult the client staff for the clarification as well as any explanations. And the next one is right to obtain information and explanation. Let us see from whom he has a right to obtain information as well as explanation. An auditor of a company has a right to correct any wrong statement. So he has a right to correct any wrong statement made by the directors. So if the directors has made any mistake, so he has a right to correct that mistake relating to the accounts laid before the company in the general meeting. But he cannot correct that mistake personally. So in the general meeting where everyone are present in the company, so during that situation, here an auditor has a right to correct that mistake which is made by the directors. So if any statement which is given by the directors is wrong, then in the general meeting he has a right to correct that statement. And the next one is right to visit branches. Of course, company is nothing but it's a big company, right? So if the company wants to expand its business, then there will be number of branches of that particular company. Here an auditor has a right to visit that branches for any information which is required. So under section 143(8) of the Companies Act 2013, an auditor of a company has a right to access to branch accounts. So here each and every branch will maintain separate accounts. Now why a separate account has to be maintained by each and every branch? In order to know the financial position of each and every branch. So what is the performance of each and every branch? So here being an auditor, he has a right to access the books of accounts of the branch also. That is, he has a right to check the books of account of branches of the company and can examine the branch account or examined by some other person. So the branch account might be examined by some other person, but here an auditor who is personally appointed for the auditing process has a right to examine that branch accounts also. Next right is right to receive notice and other communications of general meeting. So, of course, general meeting will be held in the company. So, here an auditor has a right to receive notice and other communication which was discussed in the general meeting. So, under section 146 of Companies Act 2013, an auditor of a company has a right to receive notice and other communications relating to the general meeting. So, if any general meeting has been held and the auditor is not present in that meeting, so in that situation, here the auditor has a right to receive notice and the information what they have explained in the general meeting. So in the same way as a member of the company, whether accounts done if they are discussed or not at the meeting. So here he has a right to discuss about the accounts of the company in the general meeting. And the next right is right to attend general meetings of the shareholders. So once he is appointed as an auditor, so here an auditor of the company is appointed after the 30 days of registration. So within that he has to be appointed. So here the auditor has a right to attend the meeting of the shareholders because he has already been appointed within 30 days of the registration of the company. So auditor will also have a right to attend the meeting of the shareholders. So under section 146 of Companies Act 2013, an auditor has a right to attend every general meeting of the shareholders, but he has no right to attend the meeting of the directors. So hope you have understood this. So why he has to attend the meeting? So he is a part of the company. So he is the auditor of the company and he has a right to attend the general meetings of the shareholders, but he don't have any right to attend the general meeting of directors of the company. And the next one is right to speak at the general meeting. So here, as I told you, an auditor is a part of the company, so he has a right to speak in the general meeting. So under section 146 of Companies Act 2013, an auditor of a company has a right to speak. So he has also right to speak, that is make any statement or give any explanation. So he can give his suggestions relating to the books of accounts which is maintained in the organization at the general meeting where his certified accounts are discussed. So here the books of accounts or the explanations can be given by the auditor in the general meeting. He has a right to speak in the general meetings. Next we shall see right to seek legal, technical and expert advice. So auditor is nothing but he will not be expert in all the field, right? In that situation, so if he needs any such kind of information or explanation, so he can consult the expert. So he has a right to consult the experts in respect of legal as well as technical matters also. So an auditor has a right to take legal, technical and expert advice on any matter relating to the business in order to perform his work satisfactorily. Of course, if the auditor does not have any or if he is having any clarification on a particular aspect, so if he don't clarifies, then of course the audit report will become wrong. So during that situation, so if we need any clarifications or if we need any technical or any other information, then he has a right to seek from the other experts. So he can consult other experts for their advice. So it may be noted that no doubt the auditor has a right to seek legal, technical and expert advice, but in his report he must give his own opinion. Whatever may be the suggestions which is given by the experts. So here an auditor goes to an expert only he has any doubt, right? So if the doubt is clarified, it doesn't mean that he has to write the same thing in the audit report what the expert has given the suggestion. So here always audit report will be the opinion of auditor only, not that of experts. So he can seek information, he can seek clarification from the experts, but it's not that he has to write the same in his audit report. So audit report will contains only the opinion of an auditor. So here the auditor's personal opinion about the financial statement of books of account has to be written in the form of audit report. So this is right to seek legal, technical as well as expert advice. And the next one is right to sign the audit report. Of course, he has a right to sign the audit report because the audit report is prepared by him. So he has to sign the audit report. So an auditor has a right to sign the audit report. It may be noted that under the Companies Act 1956, only a person appointed as an auditor of the company or where a firm of auditors is appointed as the auditors of the company, only the partner of the firm may sign the audit report. Now, who has to sign the audit report? Under limited liability partnership, partners can sign the audit report. Whereas in other situations, only the auditor who examines the books of account has a right to sign the audit report. No other person or no other audit staff has a right to sign the audit report. So here the audit report is prepared by the auditor, so he has to sign the audit report. And the next one is right to report to the members of the company. So here, whatever the report which has been prepared by the auditor, so he has a right to present to the members of the company. So an auditor has a right to the members of the company if the accounts audited by him show unsatisfactory state of affairs. So if the books of account is showing unsatisfactory state of affairs, in the sense it is not showing correctly, then auditor has a right to report to the members of the company. So he also have the right to qualify his report. So qualify his report in the sense, so there are two types of report, that is clean report as well as unclean report. So if there is any mistakes, he has a right to report to the members of the organization or the company telling that, so this financial statement is not proper. And the next one is right to receive remuneration. Of course, he is working for a particular amount, right? So here an auditor has a right to receive the remuneration from the client or the company. So auditor of a company has a right to receive remuneration for his audit work, provided he has completed the work which is allotted to him. So whatever the work which has been given to the auditor, if he has completed successfully, then as per the agreed rate, so he has a right to receive the remuneration from the company. So he is not working free of cost. For him, the company has to be paid, so he has a right to receive the remuneration from the company. Now let us see what are the duties and responsibilities of a company auditor. Till now we have discussed about what are the rights of a company auditor. Next discuss what are the duties and responsibilities of a company auditor. So the first one is duty to report. So of course here an auditor it is a duty of an auditor to report to the company. So under section 143 of the Companies Act 2013, an auditor of the company should make a report to the shareholders. Now why he has to make a report to the shareholders? Because shareholders are the real owner of the business. So it is a duty of the auditor to report to the shareholders on the accounts examined by him. So whatever the books of accounts which is examined by the company auditor, so that report has to be given to whom? Given to the shareholders of the company, because they are the real owners of the company. And on every balance sheet and profit and loss account laid before the company in the general meeting. So this we have already discussed. So here an auditor is being appointed by board of directors, right? So in the same way, in every annual general meeting, so the duration of an auditor will be till the next annual general meeting. So he will be working under a company. Now, being an auditor, so he has a right to report about the financial statement to the shareholders of the company and give explanations in the general meeting of the company, because his duration is only till the next general meeting. So till then he has to examine each and every books of account and he has to present the audit report and give explanations in the general meeting. Next, duty to make certain enquiries. Of course, it is a duty of an auditor to get the enquiries or make enquiry. So it may be physical verification or any other verification relating to books of account. So he has a right to make enquiries. So under section 143(1) of the Companies Act of 2013, an auditor of a company should enquire about loans and advances borrowed, about securities of the company, etc. So what are the loans that has been borrowed. It's nothing but the assets and liabilities. So the assets and liability which are there in the company, so he has a right to inquire about it. So it may be relating to the loans and advances which is borrowed, the securities which are there in the organization, the assets which are there in the organization. So such kind of inquiry he can, or it is a duty of an auditor to make such kind of inquiries. So if we don't inquire, then of course he will not have a clarification about the books of accounts, right? So he has to inquire about all these aspects. And the next one is duty to comply with the directives of the central government. Certain times central government will also give or provide some information to the auditor. So during that situation, the auditor has to follow that kind of information of the central government. So it is a duty of an auditor to follow the instructions of the central government. So the central government has been empowered to issue necessary directions. So here the central government will give necessary directions to the auditors of certain companies, not for all companies. For certain companies, the central government may give directions to give specific report on certain matters of the company. So here the central government itself will give directions to the auditor to submit certain reports of the company. So during that situation, so when the central government issues any such kind of directives, the auditor is required to comply with those directives. So here the auditor cannot deny whatever the instruction which is given by the central government. So central government gives directions to the auditor to submit few of the information about the company to the central government. So during that situation, an auditor has to, or the duty of an auditor has to comply with the directives which is given by the central government. And the next one is due to sign his audit report. Of course, it is both right and duty of an auditor to sign the audit report because it is prepared by him. So after signing itself, so it will have certain value, right? So if the auditor have prepared the report and he has not signed, it doesn't mean that. So it means that he has not prepared that report. So he has to sign that audit report. So it is a duty of an auditor to sign the audit report prepared by him. In the cases of the firm that is under limited partnership, who will sign the audit report? Partners will sign the audit report. Other than that, auditors have to compulsorily sign the audit report. Other than that, that is in limited partnership, any of the partners can sign the audit report. Next duty is every auditor should comply with auditing standards. Of course, like accounting standards, there are certain auditing standards and it is a duty of an auditor to examine the books of account according to auditing standards. So he has to follow the auditing standards. And the next one is duty to give a statement in prospectus. So what do you mean by prospectus? It's an invitation to the public to buy the shares of the company. So here the auditor has so it is a duty of an auditor to give a statement in prospectus. So a prospectus issued by the existing company should contain a statement from the auditor of the company regarding. So let us see here. As I told you, prospectus is nothing but it is an invitation which is issued to the public in order to buy the shares of the company. So during that situation, in prospectus, so it should include the statement of an auditor regarding several matters. Let us see what are the matters or the statement which has to be taken into consideration of an auditor. So the first one is profit and loss. Of course, if an auditor gives statement, so it gives more weightage for the prospectus of the company. So here the shareholders will believe that the company has done the auditing process and whatever the financial statements which is presented by the company is true and fair. In the sense, it is more accurate. So for that, a statement of an auditor has to be given in the prospectus. So including their profit or loss as well as assets and liabilities of the company and its subsidiaries. So if it is having any branches, then their assets and liabilities, rate of dividend. So what is the rate of dividend which has been paid by the company for each 5 financial years. So they have to present 5 financial years dividend what they have declared preceding the issue of the prospectus. As such, it is a duty of an auditor of a company to give such a statement in the prospectus. So here it is a duty of an auditor to give the statement regarding profit and loss, the assets and liabilities, and the 5 years dividend declared by the company. So if the statement is given by an auditor, it gives more weightage for the prospectus as well as the company, and the shareholders believe that the company has done the auditing process and whatever the financial statement they are showing is very accurate. So this is what about duty to give a statement in prospectus. And the next one is duty to assist investigators or inspectors. So if the auditor requires any such kind of investigation, so in that situation, so here it is a duty of an auditor to assist investigators or inspectors. So it is a duty of an auditor of the company to preserve and produce all books and papers relating to the company under investigation to the investigators or inspectors. So here they might give books of accounts or any other financial statement to these investigators or inspectors. So it is a duty of an auditor, and to give them all the assistance in connection with the investigation. And here the auditor should help the investigators in connection with this investigation. So in order to do the investigation successfully, here the auditor should help the investigators, that is investing of books of accounts or any other financial statements of the company. And the next one is duty to assist the central government in connection with prosecution. So here an auditor of the company is required to give the central government. So as I told you, if any instructions or directions which is given by the central government, so it is a duty of an auditor to follow those directives. All reasonable assistance in connection with the prosecution of directors, managing directors and other officers of the company. So if the central government requires any information about these persons, then it is a duty of an auditor to submit that information to the central government. And the next one is an auditor is appointed by an agreement with his client, that is the company. So he has some duties arising out of the common law or law of contract. Of course, an auditor has been appointed into the company with a law of contract, that is law of contract according to Companies Act 2013. So here an auditor, so under the law of contract, he has to perform all those duties which he has expressly. So what in the contract, so what the duties which has been assigned by the company, so that has to be successfully done by the auditor. So if an auditor enters to a company for the auditing process, there is a contract between the company as well as auditor. So company will assign certain work for remuneration. In the same way, auditor has to follow. So in the contract what they have mentioned, so the auditor has to follow all that instruction and do the work successfully. That is, he has to follow all the work. So he should not cheat the company. So he has to follow the work which has been given in the contract. And the next one is duties imposed by legal or court decisions. Or in certain situation, court or any other legal authorities will give some instructions. So that has to be followed by the auditor. So there are certain duties imposed on the company auditor by court or legal decisions. So they are: an auditor must make himself fully acquainted with his duties under the Companies Act and the Articles of Association of the company. So you should be fully involved in the activities, so which is provided by or given by Companies Act as well as Articles of Association of the company. So this is according to what? Legal or court. So as I told you, so they have to follow certain laws, that is companies law. So it is a legal or court decisions. So whatever they have mentioned in the Companies Act as well as Articles of Association of the company, so here the auditor has to follow those instructions. He must not confine himself only to the verification of arithmetical accuracy of the balance sheet, but also he should acquire into the real accuracy and fairness. It's not just the duty of an auditor to check the arithmetical accuracy of books of account. It's not that verifying the books of account. Other than that, there are number of activities which is to be performed by an auditor. So, being an auditor, it's not that he will check just the arithmetical accuracy. Along with that, he has to perform all other activities of the company. That is, he has to verify each and every aspect, not only the books of accounts. Next, he should satisfy himself about the valuation of assets and personal inspection of securities. So, you know, a part of auditing is what? Physical verification of assets and liabilities. So, here, whatever the assets and liability which are shown in the balance sheet of the company. So, here the auditor, so I have told you, the work of an auditor is not only confined for the verification of books of accounts. Along with that, so here he has to go for physical verification as well as valuation of assets and liabilities. Next, he should perform his duties with as much skill, care and caution, which a competent and careful auditor will do. So, this is also one of the duty. So, whenever a work has been assigned, so it is a duty of an auditor to do his work with more skill, care as well as caution. Next, it is a duty of a company auditor to check the stock properly. So, along with the physical verification of assets and liability, so there may be chances of misappropriation of stock also. So, he has to check the stock of the company also. Next, he should examine properly the terms of debentures trusted. So, depending upon the debentures, so here he has a right to check or examine the working of debentures or the issue as well as receiving of debentures in the company. My dear students, in today's session, we learned what are the rights and duties of a company auditor. See you all in my next session. Till then, take care. Thank you.